The land, the animals, and the people. Welcome to the Wolf Connection Podcast.
We're finally doing it.
Oh my God. 4 months in the making.
4 months?
Maybe more?
I feel like it's been years.
Oh, it's always, but no time. We're like old friends, right? As soon as we're together, boom, right back in there. Felt like we were planning this yesterday.
Yeah.
17 barriers in the way, but we got here.
We got here.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to have you finally
Thanks.
on site to see everything.
Thanks. Wonderful to be here.
Yeah. What's it? I don't know, like what hit you first when you got on site? Because we've been talking about it for a while. So.
California sunshine and the fact that all of you somehow think it's really hot outside, but coming from Virginia humidity, you guys just don't really know that 93 degrees is not so toasty. But other than that, the setup here is amazing. Really different ambiance. You can really feel a connection to the land outside and some really amazing care put into the property specifically.
Yeah. I know you guys were mentioning the trails that we went on and the different ambiance, I guess, between South End and West End, which I don't think, because I work here, I don't necessarily feel that, because you're like, there's a little bit more of like, I don't know, what would you describe it as? Because when we were in the South End was where we met Jax, we went on a hike, then we went to West End and we met Nakumi and Wiley. So
yes, so I think the Narnia area, because that's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
So Narnia, you get to walk. Let me paint a picture for anybody who hasn't been here. There's this area where there's almost, I'm going to call them bamboo. It's definitely not what the foliage was. I am not a plant person, but there's these trees that kind of overarch on you, and you can just, you feel like you are in the midst of a fantasy world, and then all of a sudden there is a wolf hiking with you, behind you, maybe beside you, maybe rubbing in some delicious smells with his 250 million thousand whatever receptors it is that are in their noses that he's rubbing on his olfactory senses in his neck and getting all stinky, and you're just there and you're like fully in it. And I think there's a relaxation, almost freedom, like a very free vibe on that part of the, wow, I sound like such a millennial. The vibes over there were so calm. But they were, like, there was just a connection, I think, specifically with the land. In the other sector of your property, it felt like very much more industrialized, right? Everybody's taken care of still, same style enclosures, a lot of same decent space, but, you know, with some of the construction, just a little more straightforward, I guess.
Yeah, I get to, yeah. And I mean, the habitats, are roughly the same size. It just looks a little bit more, like you say, when we're importing greenery over there and we have trees that are starting to grow and they'll eventually create the shade. So it's, I think when we first started, I know when I first came here 10 years ago, that South End was just, everything was on a hillside, all that natural trees and everything were already on the hillside. And so when you have to import it and sort of grow it from, non-mature trees, you're like, okay, this is going to take a little bit longer to sort of, look similar to South.
Right.
So
have
it just
have the same feel.
Yeah.
I think also what struck me about the South Side is I don't want to call it the wrong thing, but the wheel.
Medicine wheel, yeah.
The medicine wheel, that's in the middle. So also people, if you haven't been here, there's a medicine wheel that sits in the middle of their 165 acres, like apparently spot on in the middle. And without even knowing what it was, there you do feel something right there, like a draw to it. I know I had a friend visiting with me today, and we both were just like, what is that specific spot? And John you got to stand there and explain it to us, and the progression for what people can come here and feel and experience. I mean, to me, it was encompassed right there in that small little circumference area of going through the seasons, of going through the phases of humanity, of the actual seasons. I don't know, that connection, I think, to the land, to the wolves around you, was pretty stunning.
I mean, those are two things that most people, we've had folks that come here before and walking with the wolves and feeling that feeling, but you touched on the land first. Was that something that just hit you right away?
Right away. I think that's why the two sides feel so different, right? Like I know, and I can't wait. Maybe we'll do this again in 10 years and we can be like, oh, do you remember when it looked like that? Because you're clearly putting the effort into building that. And it's so different when you get to build around the landscape instead of having to build the landscape itself. And it does speak to that. And the other side, I think it struck me right away. Yeah. Right. Because you've adapted into the landscape that's here, which is amazing, with that little creek running through. Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a relaxation point that I always find with it. And being with the wolves and bonding with them in those situations are things that you can't really, do outside of a place like this.
No, that's not replicatable.
Yeah, it's not replicable. And, was there anything that, because I know we've spoken 2 times before this, or a third time, and obviously you've been in this world for a while, the wolf world on some level. Was there anything that sort of unlocked a memory for you, or something that you remember for maybe in your younger years about, wolves and things like that?
He said younger years, like I'm not 23 years old. But I think from when I worked like directly hands-on with wolves, I mean, just the measures you take to protect both the people and the animals here, right? Like making sure that the animal gets to choose whether or not it has any interaction with you. That is just something I find, so beautiful, that I think sometimes people miss in places that they've developed, but it just brought me back to when I got to work at sanctuaries, both at Wolf Sanctuary out in Colorado or the International Wolf Center, right? The decision is up to the animal and it is not up to you. And so I'm going to say the dang word again, but vibes. It's all about the vibes in the enclosure, and like having those protocols set in place so that they get to have that interaction. I think it really brought forth for me the progression that we've made in the sanctuary world in the past 20 years to see that be the number one priority. And when you got the donation of meat, and I was like, oh, meat day. Love a good stinky meat day, everybody.
I mean, yeah. And what you said though, like the reciprocation that happens when the wolves feel comfortable and the wolves are able to make those decisions, it mirrors back on the humans that come on site to be able to make those decisions, hopefully for themselves when they leave.
Yeah.
And that's the thing we really try to drive home, is that you have the ability to make that choice, or the ability to have the power to say, this is how I want to approach these situations, when given the space and time to do that. And that's really what we try to reciprocate for both humans and wolves here, is that this is a safe space. We're able to grow together, learn together, and exchange ideas.
Yeah. And I didn't get to see it live, but I can't imagine what that does for the youth populations that you have come here. I can't imagine how powerful that must be for them. Hopefully I'll get to witness that sometime.
Yeah. I mean, I think you would love to come back when we have a Women and Wolves. I think that would be fully in your jam.
Dumb. I'm here.
You're here?
I'm here.
We got to figure that out.
Yeah. Another 3 years.
Another 3 years later? No, it won't be 3 years. I promise. I mean, you and I have had some really deep conversations too. I always wonder, and this is when we talk about Women and Wolves specifically, and you just got your PhD, by the way, your doctorate.
Oh
Congratulations.
My God, thank you.
I mean, a ton of work. I know you're one of a bunch of folks lately who have been like progressing and pushing for that. And I know that's a lot of work. Has there been anything that this animal in particular, the wolf, has taught you over time, or a word or two that comes to mind that you sort of use in your life? Because it seems like you've expanded your boundaries. I don't know if I'm hitting something a little bit different.
All right, folks, he didn't give me that question ahead of time, so I have zero prep for that. A word, 1 or 2 words. I don't know. I've had so many phases with wolves, right? Getting to watch my grandfather work with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, with the Red Wolf Reintroduction Program when I was literally could barely walk, right? And tracking red wolves there. I think awe was probably the word that would come to mind for that phase of life. I I don't know, honestly, it reminds me of the wheel that we got to walk earlier today, that I've experienced wolves and this wolf world, and carnivores generally as well, in so many different phases, all from childhood into like this almost angsty teenager vibe of the passion that they carry in them, that is so controversial at times, right? And then, as an adult, kind of that reciprocity, which is a little bit what we were just touching on, the creating boundaries. Wolves are really good at doing that, actually, a way in which I can't do it all. And then almost in like, I don't want to call myself an elder, but in that elder season of wisdom too. So I don't have one word, and it's going to haunt me that we're recording it now. I'm sure I'm going to text you in a couple hours, like 5 different really amazing words. But I think they've represented something for each season of life. And I think I'm about to hit some new turn and be a little baby in the world all over again, and can't wait to see what they teach me in this next phase too.
I mean, that's the best part though, is that the wheel teaches us, at least in our practice here, I can't speak for others outside of it, is that those circles never end. And that you're constantly going through birth, rebirth, wisdom, as you said. Like I've hit wisdom stages too, and I'm like, all right, I'm not an elder. And it's funny when you interact, and I think we probably hit this when we were in our teenage stages, right? We're like, man, those people are old just because we look at a number, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at it, and we've seen the progression, I think, of youth, and this will get into some of the stuff that I actually forwarded you. But I like to surprise, I like to have surprise stuff. But we see that their youth have wisdom already. And it's like, how do you unlock that wisdom, and how do you make it so that it's available for themselves to be able to share with people that are older than them, both in age and in life stage? And for us, as we go through these different cycles, how do we combat that? Because wolves and other critters do that on a regular basis. They're constantly cycling through. It's like, oh, well, we got to kill, we ate that stuff. Okay, now we got to start over. And that's another part of a wheel there. I feel like for you, because we talked about the professional stuff, it's like you're in this curious, courageous part, because you just
died. I just died, folks. Finishing a dissertation, it does kill you.
Yeah.
So anybody else out there doing it, keep going. You can. And when you die, hopefully there's a rebirth at the end of this.
I mean, but it's so true, right? I mean, do those two words speak to you, like being courageous to do it, and like the curiosity of like, can I actually do it? Is it actually possible? I don't know. I don't know what that was like for you to go through that.
I would never say the word courageous speaks to me.
Really?
I don't ever think of myself as a courageous person.
Why though?
I'm just not a word that I would ever attribute to myself. Curiosity, sure. I think that's probably number one. I think I'm curious about life in all kinds of aspects, and definitely is what got me through that last professional stage of, okay, what are the answers to this? How can I do it? Did I need a doctorate? Absolutely not. But I think the curiosity was like, I want to know more. How do I answer those things? How do I figure out how to answer them by myself? And now I have that skill set because I'm a doctor.
I mean, and we were talking about that. It's like, I was like, what do I call you now? Are you a doctor?
You guys can call me Dr. Cassiopeia, Dr. Camara, Dr.
Dr.
Cassiopeia.
Camara. I mean, and this, look, and we've discussed so many things. We've touched such a broad range of topics over the course. I mean, we've known each other for what, 4 years now, at least, right? We met at the symposium in 22.
Okay.
By the way, well, I'll announce this now. I'm going back to the symposium in 26.
Me too.
So you'll see Cassie and I, different things. But there were a couple things. I knew you were coming out here, and I was like, I have to get a couple questions to you, because you are hands down one of the smartest people I know, and you're just very candid about what. No, but you are, and like these are things that are necessary though when we talk about, especially in the worlds that we traverse in, and that we sort of intersect, you and I, with wolf sanctuary, media, communication, things like that. And I feel in the progression of this podcast and the way that we're talking, not just about wolves, but about the larger environmental things that are happening, how has media affected really our outlook when we talk about biodiversity? We talk about ecological protections being stripped away. And is it parallel to what we've seen with wolves, where there's two lines of thought and one line of thought, be it negative, myth, legend, sort of not necessarily overtakes it? Is it the same with natural land? I don't feel that way. I feel like there are a lot of groups that gather together to protect public land.
Okay.
But there's still a section of our society, governmental or larger groups in power, that are like, no, we're not going to listen to you. So where does the media fall? Have we been let down by certain things? What do you see from your perspective?
I think you just asked me 11 questions.
I did, yes.
But, okay, so to hit on a couple of them.
Go ahead.
I think what I know to be true is that facts don't matter nearly as much as a narrative matters, right? The stories that we tell, the values specifically that those stories connect to the audience, that's what matters. And it's the same for wolves. It's the same for a variety of conservation issues. And so to hit on my dissertation a little bit, so I did ballot box biology, how communication constructed conservation in the Colorado wolf reintroduction. And specifically what it does was treated communications not as a byproduct of conservation, but as an actual mechanism that is actively constructing decision-making processes. So it hits on how communications literally impacts policy decisions, governance, education. And in the flip of that, how do we use that same communication as a tool to maybe alter those in the way that we think are best, right? For whoever we are as an audience.
Yeah.
And so I think it has everything to do with both Colorado, with wolves, with conservation as on the whole. But communication itself has to create understanding in the audience. And that is where I think maybe other groups are doing a lot better job, specifically. But you mentioned government and kind of the public, and I don't really see those as two separate things here. I think the government, one of the things they're fighting all the time is competing priorities. And you mentioned them like land trust, right? We've got invasive species, we got economic development, we got wildfire mitigation.
Exactly.
Who am I to decide as a leader in any government which of those matters most? And it's so interesting because we work in this wolf world where we're like, why aren't they focusing on it? Why aren't they? And the benefit of the wolf is that it's such a charismatic species. It gets so much attention than way more other species do.
Right.
So that's such a benefit. So things do happen more for the wolf than they do for potentially any other animal. Right? But at the same time, being that same charismatic species, the problem with working with wolves in communications is you are fighting all of the backstory that comes along with them having been a charismatic species for hundreds of years, right? There are stories that have been told that we have literally embodied inside of us now that affect the value systems of all of the people that we are communicating with. And in this most recent conference I was at, I didn't think it was a controversial statement, but I said the general public doesn't exist. And I wasn't trying to be hippy-dippy and be like, no, the general public's not even a thing. But what I mean is that when you're thinking of communications, it does have to be segmented in ways where you're considering that this one message doesn't hit your whole audience.
Right.
You're talking to so many different people at the same time. So choosing those communication methods, the words that you're using, all matter. And I do think other arenas of conservation potentially do that better.
The Wolf Connection podcast is now sponsored by our new partner, Jacques-Marie Mage. This LA-based brand is known for their limited edition, handcrafted eyewear and luxury goods, but also for their stewardship program, which supports various nonprofits and individuals who are working to protect a future for wild wolves.
And I think that's what I'm seeing, and I was roundabout lane, I'm sorry, I asked you 11 questions in one thing, but I think what I'm seeing from this perspective is when you branch out from the wolf space and we start, and we've been intentional about this, of looking at the broader ecological issues.
Yeah.
When you see protections being stripped from natural places, public lands looking to be sold out, there is a collective voice from multiple arenas that we don't see, I don't think, necessarily if it's just about one species. What is the difference there? Like, what's the unifying force if you could tap into it? Or is it just because people say, I fished in this stream through this hiking trail, through these backwoods? You know, when we talk about boundary waters, we talk about Big Bend, National Park. Why is public lands seem to unite people, whereas other conservation stories have necessarily hit roadblocks?
Because it's ours collectively. There's a collective buy-in, right? That is something that all of us should be able to tap into, should be able to access. It is our resource. It's there's no I in team, right? There is an I in public land, but I do think it is seen as a general population thing that is supposed to be attainable for every level of citizen. And I think that I don't have any backing for this.
Sure.
But I think that is why they are able to get around some of that, because it speaks to so many different stakeholders from so many different areas to the same point that they want it protected. Why they want it protected may be very, very different.
Right.
But the general message that they are able to hone in on is this needs to stay protected for whatever reason. And different stakeholders have different gauges of what success there looks like, for sure, but they're not even talking about that yet because they're just trying to keep it protected. And I would say the wolf world, for those of you listening who are a part of it, you can probably attest to this, that there's a lot of messaging. We have a lot of different things that we want accomplished, and I'm putting myself in there as well.
Sure.
But all of these stakeholders were coming at it wanting wolves. Either we're thinking about wild wolves, maybe we're thinking about wild wolf policy, maybe we're thinking about animal cruelty laws, maybe we're thinking about wolf hybrids. There's so many different angles from it, and I think that we still have a really big problem with infighting, honestly.
And it seems like that's what sort of dissipates in these other issues, these broader ecological issues. When we talk about public land and things like that, it's not about a charismatic species that has all this myth, legend, and lore. It's, like you said, it's for us. These lands are for us. It's about people. It's about us having those, and it's community centric, I would think too. I don't know if that's part of it too, and that it's easier for folks to get on board with. We want the boundary waters protected because I've kayaked down here,
Right.
For 5 or 6 summers in my childhood, or I've hiked the trails around all these other places. And so it's a little bit more of a connective tissue that can be brought to the general public as opposed to one specific species.
As soon as any agenda item, policy, government, whatever, as soon as it is personal, that's when it matters.
Right.
So as soon as we can figure out a way to make wolves matter to an individual, to a community on the broader scale, we're not going to see the same kind of changes. And there are large swaths of communities that don't see a value there, or we're not talking to them in the way that that makes their value systems go into active mode, right? Because I'm here to tell you, there's a whole bunch of hunters who believe in conservation. And I know that's controversial to say in the wolf space. There are hunters who absolutely value wolves and want wolves on the landscape. We don't talk to them in a way that brings them to the table comfortably. That's on us, right? So I think that's really what's missing. And in some of these other arenas, they've done a much better job of figuring out, and maybe it's because wildfire doesn't have the controversial lens to it quite as much, because fire's pretty scary for everyone.
Fire's scary, exactly. Yeah, and that's what I mean. I think it's just what I'm seeing from the bird's eye view is that people collectively can come together and do fundamentally come together because of the thing that matters to them. And it's like you said, it's personal. And it's almost, how do you step outside of yourself, I guess, for the greater good? I don't even know if that's a thing in communication. I mean, the other thing I want to touch on with you is, how is Could you teach environmental education, or you're involved in environmental education?
I am. It's in my title.
It's in your title. One of your many titles are these types of issues being brought to the table for this next generation, the generation after that? Are we setting the table for them to understand the importance of this stuff? And that places, within Wolf Connection, we're grandfathered into a national forest.
So cool.
And do they understand, I guess, the importance of these national forests, of these natural spaces, the environment, like the positivity that it can bring to our, the aspects of our lives? Like, I don't know if that's...
I would say a yes and.
Yeah.
Yes, but not nearly enough. And you mentioned, so technically I'm an environmental education specialist.
Right.
And environmental education, so we're going to do a mini lesson, environmental education versus environmental literacy. So a lot of what we talk about is environmental education specifically. We're talking about programs, lessons, curriculum, right? Some of the things you do here are environmental education. What I'm working towards is creating an entire citizenship that is environmentally literate, meaning they can take those programs, those actions, and turn them into civic engagement, systems thinking level. So it's somehow figuring out how to move the programmatic areas beyond that into critical thinking, problem solving. So now what they just experienced lives with them and has created a value system to where they want to protect things in the next generation. And that is where we're not yet. I believe we are succeeding in the product, the process, which is environmental ed, but we're not yet to that outcome of environmental literacy.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look at it from the fact that I believe it's a roughly 25 of the 50 states in this country only just now have environmental literacy plans for their school systems that are adopted at a state level. California is one of them, so don't worry.
I mean, but what,
And that's getting environmental ed and environmental literacy into your school systems. So even that is controversial still. So it's an uphill battle, right? Because we're coming at it from so many different lenses. And if you're even thinking about school systems, it's not a priority for them. A teacher is overworked worrying about school shooters. Why the heck should they have to worry about trying to figure out a way to get their students outside? Right? There are so many barriers in the way of getting the next generation of folks excited, passionate, or engaged in these topics in a way where they're going to want to protect it because they see it as their own. Because right now, I don't think they see it as their own on a larger scale.
So you brought up something really, really important, I think, in that last bit.
Fantastic. Tell me what it was.
Well, it's truly about the educators and facilitators.
Yeah.
And
underpaid.
And what they're also not receiving. And I think this is something that we're here at Wolf Connection, we're progressing towards also, is that we're helping the students, we're helping the youth, we're building out, and we've seen this, women's veterans, Department of Mental Health, but understanding that the facilitators and the educators also need this work.
Yeah.
So how do we get them that work? You said, we're not at that point yet where where the outcome of, we love this land, we want to protect this land, we're at that point. How do we help facilitators integrate that? What would be something we could do?
What a great systems thinking question.
Right?
So I think if anybody's listening who is working in those spaces, either with educators in school system, formal or non-formal educators, I think there are programs that exist already out there for professional development, but bringing the teachers, those facilitators, people who are doing those programs, if we're specifically speaking about school divisions, bringing them out to experience something outdoors, because managing a classroom is already so difficult. So making sure that they get the experience of it sparking joy in them, and then giving them the skill set to figure out that they can do it safely, and so that they can also see the change in their students, right? One of the things I'm working on now is figuring out how to take some of the science that we have, showing that, yes, students absolutely perform better when they get to be outside, when they get to have experiences, and make that science digestible for people where they understand that the benefit of that not only improves their grades, but it improves their well-being in school, which can improve their well-being at home, like all kinds of aspects here. So I think if we're specifically thinking about facilitators, helping them figure out ways that are safe, that don't even have to go off site of their schools, bringing things to them, and figuring out what the barriers are first and knocking the barriers out of the way.
And that's always what we're butting up against, is the roadblocks, the barriers, and taking out the back end operational aspect for these individuals.
So hard.
And it's difficult because, as you said, tacking on something else to the plates of an educator or of anyone who's maybe they're in a correctional facility. There are daily operational things that have to happen. And like you said, maybe tacking one more thing on. I don't know. In my view, I feel like the benefits of this type of education, this type of environmental space, could produce so many more positive aspects of people's lives.
We know
it has. No, I know you know it, and we've seen it too here at Wolf Connection. It's the same thing. We've seen what you were talking about. Grades improving, moderation within, experiences outside of the classroom,
emotional control.
Emotional control. Yeah. And when we say, and I think too, it's just when we say about finding themselves, there has been a lot of trauma or imprint, and trauma is probably the wrong word, but just the imprints that happen, throughout our lives daily, whether it's within our friend groups, our familia groups, outside of that, in our school systems, in our, professional lives. Like, the environment is a way for us to emotionally and physically, psychologically reconnect and find a way that we're able to reset our minds and our nervous systems in a way that...
And it's done it for all of time.
Right.
It's been doing it. It's still going to do it. And when the world keeps looking hopeless, it's still going to continue to be there to serve as that spot for all of us. And that's why our public lands are so important and why everybody wants to get around it, because we have to protect those spaces, because I think as they diminish, so does our humanity.
And when we look at it, our wildlife populations diminish as well. We've seen it. We've seen mass extinction. I believe we're in the 6th mass extinction.
That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying. So we're losing...
It's a good old day.
We're losing more fauna. We're losing more flora. We're losing these places that have kept these ecosystems and these natural environments ticking for so long, for however many years you want to go back there. But for you in the environmental education space, what would you give sort of as something that people can look at and look towards, or maybe engage in if they're interested, if they want to do it? What's a way that they can bring it into their ecosystem, whether it's in a school or professional setting?
I think that there are 1,000 answers to that. But I'm going to say that don't forget that conservation can happen at your kitchen table, right? It is one amazing thing to be outside in the world and to experience it. But just keep talking about it wherever you are. Talk to a stranger about it if you can. But have the conversations at your table, maybe with your parents, your grandparents. Talk intergenerationally. Don't forget that those elders do have wisdom. Don't forget that there's a whole generation of Gen Alpha coming up who are slowly going to have little to none experience, to no experience in the wild. So I think cultivating that in whatever way. Realize that being outside for some populations means virtual reality. So meet people where they are and bring your message with you.
And I think that's the important part, is that bringing different voices, elder voices, indigenous voices, folks that have tended the land, have relationship with the land well before I was here, before we were here, and understanding that there's a different way and a different relationship that can be had with all of it. And it can be integrated into everything that we do.
Yeah, I don't think indigenous knowledge and scientific knowledge are at odds with each other even a little bit, right? They go hand in hand. One is trying to understand ecosystems with data and experience, and one is understanding those same ecosystems through lived experience day in and day out. And data just looks maybe a little bit different. And I think those things together will be able to create stronger ecosystems overall. But just as you said, all of those individuals have a place at the table, and we have to stop being so exclusive about who comes up to the table, because we all do have a voice here.
Right.
You've got a voice. That's right. You who's listening right now or watching.
These are the things I knew that would happen when I.
They had to at least once. I had to make some weird eye contact with the camera.
She broke the fourth wall. If you were to give your own piece of wolf wisdom to anyone out there, what would it be?
Stop talking and listen.
I love that.
Boom.
Yeah. And I haven't asked this question to you probably in a few years.
Oh, no.
When you hear the word wolf, what's the thing that comes to your mind?
Today is calm. Yeah. But that's to where we are right now. Today, a wolf brought me calm.
Love that for you.
Thanks. Me too.
This has been an absolute pleasure. I'm so happy that you're here.
It's always a pleasure with you too, John.
I appreciate everything you're doing. Your voice needs to be louder.
It's pretty loud already. We tested it on the computer.
We tested it. But no, in all seriousness, you are one of the most genuine people I know, and
Thank you.
appreciate everything that you bring to the table in all facets. Thank you.
You're welcome. He said we were going to do this in 15 minutes, folks. I want you to know that we're at minute 38, and he is a liar. Cut that part out.
We'll cut that part out. How's to y'all out there? We'll be with you next time. Thank you, Cassie, for coming. Appreciate you.
You too.
All right.
Oh, woo.
Ooh.
Looking for more information about Wolf Connection or the podcast? Visit our website at wolfconnection.org, where you can donate, sponsor a wolf, or become a volunteer. Thank you for listening.